Hi there, I'm Kylie Mowbray-Allen from Hello Media.
And I'm Jenni Walke from Elephant in the Room Consulting, and you're tuning into Bite Size Business Live Podcast, the show that helps business owners get clarity and insight to grow their dream business.
Whether you're launching, ready to scale, or figuring out what's next, we discuss the nitty-gritty, the hard bits, the opportunities, and the behind the scenes, and share how we've grown our own companies and helped others do the same.
We're glad you're here. Hello and welcome to Bite Size Business Live Podcast. I'm Jenni Walke from Elephant in the Room Consulting, and with me is Kylie Mowbray-Allen from Hello Media. This is the show that helps small business owners get clarity and insight to grow their dream business. How are you today, Kylie?
Great, thanks, Jenny. I love a Monday morning. How are you?
I am really well, thank you. Having a great day. It's a little bit overcast here, but enjoying some conversations today around storytelling, which I'm very excited to, because this is such a fun conversation and we love having a conversation. I mean, as a First Nations woman, we do a lot of yarning, right? It's all about communication and storytelling and this conversation. So I'm loving the context of this in relation to business.
Me too. And if you think about how we met, we both had signed up to do this new series of business workshops. And what I often do, because that, generally somebody starts a Facebook group or something like that to do with what you've signed up for. So you're taking a look at the people that are responding and how they're chatting in that group or whatever. So I then went and looked at your profile. Next thing I'm looking at your website, and you could say stalking or whatever you want to, but I'm just out there checking it out. And what I'm learning is your story behind the scenes. I'm reading the about page and all of that. So I think that from a very early on, before you've even decided if you're going to work with someone or anything, that you're looking at that story that they're sharing in all the different ways that they're putting it out there. What's your thoughts on storytelling and what it is?
Well, I think as humans, we like the narrative. I think the conversation, we went through this period of time where it was always transactional, and it was this kind of I buy and I sell, and it's kind of no connection. And I think people are craving connection. Maybe the 2 years of isolation for people and separation have made people realize that value and importance that you get from getting to know people. And I think storytelling gives us a narrative behind the brand and the individual, even the product that we're selling or buying. And so when we can share through, and when we tell stories, we're actually having a glimpse into kind of our values and our culture and our ways of being. And I think that allows people to create connections. So for me, I mean, that's definitely from our First Nations culture. That's important to us. Our culture has survived through storytelling. And I think there's power in that, in being able to share metaphor and wisdom and knowledge, but also add value in the product or the service that you're selling by creating a connection.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. For sure. It's the difference between why do I choose to buy from you or work with you? Because it might be as simple as I liked your about page. I liked the fact that it shared something in there that really resonated with me. And it made me then want to book a session with you or want to buy your product. So whatever it is that sharing that gives us a snippet of why you do what you do.
Yeah, I also think it allows us to kind of direct people on a path. So, back in the day, and I know we're talking about customer experience next week and that process around customer experience, but storytelling is a pathway, right? So we can actually take people on a journey through our story. And so every time you engage with us, we build on that story. So your branding does that, your content does that, your social media and your online presence builds a story. So people actually get to start seeing what the company's about. And I think more and more these days, there's a need or a desire to connect with the brand and connect with people and not just purchase transactionally. And so and I think that's why we're drawn so much to TikTok and to Instagram, because it's and Facebook, because it's that storytelling, it's that narrative that we get in image form that's then supported by the words, but it's really the images that capture our attention. And so storytelling these days is now no longer just about the oral storytelling or written storytelling. It's about the imagery that supports that as well. And I think that's feeding into our kind of desire for connection in the world.
Absolutely. And I think for some people, some business owners, it's very overwhelming to be sharing their story. It's not, they don't want to, I've got a couple of clients that just want nothing to do with being out there and sharing photos or even anything about their life behind the scenes. But I think, Jenni, you do it in a really great way, that you do it through sharing of your shoes. There's your Nikes that are the original this, and there's the hand painted that and all that. And I think we get a glimpse of who Jenni Walke is behind Elephant in the Room Consulting. But we know that that's a bit quirky. There's lots of things about it that just is really awesome. So I think that's a clever way of doing it. So for those that are scared, and I'm not saying it by any means that you're scared to put yourself out there, but for those that are, you need to find a way to do something that then is still recognizably you.
And I think it's such a really good point. It's about identifying a story that connects with you. So the shoes for me is a expression of freedom, right? It's a breaking away from the corporate kind of change that I thought I was going to live and breathe for the rest of my life. And so starting the company gave me freedom and choice. So I can choose now to go up to executive coaching sessions and deliver keynote speeches and panel discussions in Jordans and Air Force Ones. And for me, it's a little bit of that rebellion coming out and demonstrating my freedom of choice. You do your storytelling through your awesome Instagram filters and the really cool ways that you share content. And that's such a big thing. I love when I look at your reels and your Instagram and your Facebook, all the different filters that you have, because that's, for me, that terrifies me. But it's that really cool way, so I can get to see your humor and your kind of your freedom in the way that you show up with your amazing filters. So I think that's what's really critical, isn't it? It's about finding a path and a story, a way of telling story that actually is part of who you are, and then that will allow you to connect with others. It's not just choosing something that someone else is doing and copying it. It's saying, what's going to work for me? Is it shoes? Like I see a lot on Instagram at the moment with the people with their camera up, and they've got their pictures, so the camera is always covering their face, and there's a whole lot of stuff going on in the background, and that's kind of how they're showing up. Or it might be a particular color palette, or it might be just a choice of font that will actually use to connect with with you and your individuality or your brand. And I think that's what's so cool about storytelling these days, is there's so many different ways that you can actually choose to share your story, and different mediums on the online platforms to do that.
Absolutely. So when we think about bringing a story into sharing about what you do, I think for you with the shoes, or for me with the silly Snapchat filters, that is, each time you see one of those, it's a reminder of, that's right, there is a real human behind this brand, and there is some humor or some quirkiness coming into this, which makes people either resonate with it or repel. And I think that's good too, because not everybody should be your customer. So you want the ones that resonate with you.
Yeah, I think that's 100%. I think, and that goes to that conversation of how do we actually weave the concept of storytelling into the way we show up online, into our content. And because we always think back in the day, the internet and anything online was kind of static. It was an image, or it was text, or it was a blog. And now with the video overlays and filters and reels and shorts on YouTube and all the different ways that you can actually utilize the online medium, it means that you can actually choose something that works for you. Like for me, we've talked about TikTok and me are not really friends. I know we're supposed to get friends, but I'm really kind of like struggling with there, right? Instagram, I love Instagram to show up with the imagery, and our team, we do so love our reels now. And so we're trying to find ways that we feel comfortable doing that's authentic to us, that doesn't feel like, as I said, that we're following someone else's trend that doesn't really align with our values. Because ultimately, if someone sees something that's not aligning with me and then they work with me, they're going to be like, but you showed up like this, and now you look like this. And there is a misalignment, right? And we used to see that in print ads. We used to see that in old school advertisements where the ad would promise one thing, and then you'd get into a store and be like, this is not what it looks like. And, I feel like that's some cases in some fast food chains where you go and it looks all shiny and new on television. You go and you're like, I don't think it is the same anymore. So, that brand promise is different. And I think, so now we have an opportunity to say, well, what is my brand promise? What is my promise to my customers? And how do I demonstrate that? And storytelling is the most powerful way of doing that.
Totally. And I think really that's where, without even meaning to, or without even being intentional doing it, you can really help inspire others by doing that. Definitely. So for example, you can share from time to time, or you do, about your Indigenous culture. Now, that then can inspire others to then think, oh, maybe it's time that I was sharing a bit about that. For me, talking about the disability space, talking about being in a small village and, you know, working with people all over the country and overseas. So I think that there's so many things that we can share that will give people an inkling that potentially, actually, maybe I could do that too.
100%. And I think there's a couple of key aspects that you really shared there. And I'm going to try and drill down. It's like there's that emotional connection piece, right? Is that first piece, I want to create a connection, a heartfelt connection with the individual or the brand. And stories allow you to evoke emotions like that. It allows us to be like, yes, I want to be part of that story, that journey, that community. But then also it allows you to stand apart, doesn't it? So you're actually saying, yes, you're a digital marketing coach, I'm a business coach, but I'm a mad shoe fan, and you have that, your community work and your volunteering work and the support you do in the community actually separates you and then is going to draw people towards you who are aligned in that way. But what I also love about it is it allows us to actually then play around and be a little bit innovative about how we want to share those stories. And so we actually get to build our brand identity around those things that we would normally hide. And traditionally, you wouldn't worry, walking in Air Force Ones into a corporate environment is something that I would never imagine I'd ever done. But I'm doing it now. And, I ran workshops last week and I ran coaching sessions last week with senior executive people. And I'm standing in a new pair of Air Force Ones or a new pair of Jordans. And the first thing people say is, I love the kicks. So immediately disarms people, it immediately reduces any tension because they're starting to talk about something that's got nothing to do with the content, right? And they're connecting on a personal level. So when we start to sit down and get into that discussion and get into the sort of the hard stuff, you've broken through a little bit of those barriers. And to me, it's like the ultimate version of an icebreaker, which I hate, by the way, but it's a really great icebreaker because it's disarming. In the same way, your conversations around your community, your personal, bring people in, connect you to the story, and then they lean into everything you say.
Absolutely. You're so right. Finding one thing that a speaker says that immediately connects you is everything. Connection is everything. So not thinking about, is this B2B or is this B2C? At the end of the day, it's P2P or H2H, human to human. So you're so right that what we were doing 100 years ago or even 10 years ago with literally, or 20 years ago, whatever we're up to, with just an ad from Coca-Cola and a newspaper, as opposed to now what that brand could actually share about behind the scenes is so important.
I mean, and we see brands are now in a point of inspiration, right? I think, whether it's the tagline that you've done and, Nike's done, brilliantly with their, with Just Do It, which has been there for so long, because it elevates it's elevated the brand. It connects to every human. They say, if you're a human, you're an athlete. It makes anybody feel like they're part of that community. Yes. And so that storytelling that they share, and even there's a brand here in Queensland called LSKD. It's becoming kind of a national phenomenon. In fact, they've actually opened stores overseas now because their branding is phenomenal. But they actually connect with local athletes. So they're always supporting Brisbane-based or Australian-based athletes through not only just materials, but they have a performance center. So they're a lifestyle brand that has a performance center in their warehouse. So that actually they go and they train with people, and it's not just about the clothes anymore. It's about the whole person, how they train, where they train, what they do. And it's actually making people realize that I can actually come into that space. I can put on their clothes and I feel part of that, because their whole branding model is around the story of the athletes and the people who wear their clothes, not just the clothes. And it's such a clever shift. And we've seen, Nike's been doing that for years. Adidas and Asics have done it for years. Coca-Cola has done it for years in terms of getting us into, it's about being on the beach in the sun and having fun. Oh, and we just happen to have this drink on the side, right? And I think that's what we've connected with. And so, but it floors me how so many people still are really struggling with this connection of story. And I guess this is the downside, because as you said, there are people who go, I don't want to share my story. I don't want to talk about it. And I think, for me, without being silly and saying the elephant in the room, is the fact that that's people who are still resisting it are thinking that the business is about them. And ultimately, your business isn't about you, it's your customers, because you don't have a business if you don't have customers. So if you're not thinking about engaging and connecting with your customers and what's going to work for them, you don't have a business. So,
right.
Is that point of like, okay, so stop. You don't have to share everything you do on the weekend. I don't want to see what you had for breakfast, but share a glimpse of you and your brand and what's under the hood, and make me want to be part of that community. That's what storytelling does.
And whether it's just literally just your shoes, or if it's literally just, I don't know, the flowers that you take photos of on your morning walk, whatever it is. So it doesn't even have to be you. Remember when those reels first came out and we were just talking about the horror of the lip syncing or the jumping in and out of imaginary boxes and all that stuff. It's like, that doesn't resonate with me. It doesn't resonate with you. What can we do to find a way that we can share our story without doing it where we're not comfortable? So that's the key, isn't it? It's finding what you're comfortable with.
And it's redefining storytelling. Yeah, but it's redefining storytelling for you.
Yes.
So is storytelling words? Is it videos? Is it dancing? Is it filters? Is it shoes? Is it, is it a reel every day? Is it long form blogs? Is it an old school email? I love it saying email is old school now, but is it an old school email? How are you choosing to share your story? And find the niche that works for you, and then just be consistent, right? Just keep showing up every day in that way, and you will find your people.
Absolutely. Great advice. You will. That's that beautiful client attraction piece, isn't it? You put it out there, and then the right people will be attracted to you and want to work with you or buy from you. Or yeah.
Exactly.
Nice one, Jenni. Nice one. Well, how can people get in touch with you?
To learn more about what we do, head to @elephantintheroomaU on Facebook or Insta, and then you can find us at our website, elephantintheroomau.com, and we tend to hang out mostly on Insta or on our website. Send us an email and get in touch. And Carly, how about you?
For me, hellomedia.team for the website and for the socials, and join the Hello Media Facebook group. I'm sharing in there updates and all things that are happening with changes with algorithms and stuff. Today, I just did a post about, have you got your two-factor authentication set up for Facebook, for example? So important to get that done. So yeah, lots of tips going on there. So I'm excited to talk with you next week about the customer journey and the customer experience, Jenni. So
yeah, I think that conversation is going to really build on the conversation today around storytelling. And I really, before we head off though, have a think about what you're doing and how you're sharing and what's the story you want to share with people. Because next week, when we do talk about customer experience and what that means for your business, storytelling becomes a really important part of that conversation of how you're going to share about your business and how you're going to connect with your customers and potential customers. So spend the week thinking about what your story is, and let's talk about it next week when we talk about customer experience.
Look forward to it very much.
Well, thanks everybody for tuning in for this episode of Bite Size Business Live Podcast. Make sure you subscribe and follow us so you don't miss any future episodes, especially the one next week on customer experience. And we look forward to hearing and seeing you next week online. Have a great week, Kylie, and we'll chat next week.
Thanks. Have a great week to you too. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.